eye on it for you.
We're going to take a look at the Cimarron model 1878 12 gauge coach gun. First, we're going to take it out to the range to see how each barrel patterns with a couple different loads, and also to see where the point of aim is of each barrel. Then we're going to bring it back in the shop and talk about what's good about it, what's bad about it, and maybe where are some of the shortcomings.
Standard AK mount. So when you do a rear, you have to. Single stab. We just have to roll them in the dough. We just have to do credit. Keep charging shit, you know. Is this a 19?
So what we have here is the backs of two 16-inch pizza boxes. I just love these as targets. And what we have here is with the right barrel, I was aiming right at this 16-inch stamp right here with a state number 4 buckshot. And my point of aim was this, this spot where it says 16 inches. And as you can see, I took 2 shots with number 4 buckshot, and they patterned kind of off to the left here. And if we measure that, you know, that's about 2.5 inches centered. The center of this shot mass is about 2.5 inches off my point of aim at 25 feet. Now, having said that, it did pattern nicely at about 7 inches at 25 feet. And similarly, the left barrel patterned about the same with 2 shots of number 4 buckshot estate, roughly 7-inch patterns. But again, this was my point of aim with the left barrel, and the center of this shot mass is about 2-3 inches offset. Got some birdshot going here. Again, left barrel, right barrel. Again, point of aim was here on the right barrel, and the shot mass is clearly offset a bit. Again, a nice spread, about about 80% of the pellets are within about 8-9 inches. Same here. My shot mass is offset on the left barrel, just like we saw in the buckshot. And there is some, I think I did take a poke at with buckshot at this, and again, that's a little offset in both. So what this means, if the right barrel is crossing the center line and hitting a bit to the left, and the left barrel is crossing over the center line and hitting to the right at 25 feet, the true point of aim for both barrels is probably crossing your sight radius at about 10 feet out. So this machine is probably meant to be a point blank range machine. And if I carry this out, now this is at 25 feet, if this is at 25 yards, these shot masses would be again, my point of aim was for each barrel, left and right, were these center marks here. If this is 3 inches offset at 25 feet, this would be 9 inches off at 25 yards. And you have to really be cognizant of that if you're using this to maybe shoot clay pigeons for the heck of it, or possibly even using it for hunting, or maybe even a self-defense situation, although it's hard to imagine you'd use this for self-defense at that kind of range. First, we're going to make sure this gun is unloaded, and as you can see, it is unloaded. Why do I have this machine? Well, the reality of it is I always wanted a 12 gauge side-by-side coach gun. Yeah, I know there's options out there with more firepower, but there's just something cool about it, the reliability and utility of a coach gun, especially this one with the exposed hammers, which is probably pretty close to the original 1878 version. Of course, this one uses modern smokeless powder cartridges, and I'm assuming the original 1878 version used black powder. In terms of the features, this machine is about 36 inches long, weighs about 8 pounds when it's unloaded. That's nothing on it, nothing in the chambers, and not including this cuff. It's got 20-inch barrels. It has a simple bead sight on the top. I think you can see that. It's got external hammers that need to be cocked every time you fire it. You can cock it one at a time like this. And then there's 2 triggers. The front trigger releases the right hammer. The rear trigger releases the left hammer. There's different ways to cock this. The way that seems to work best for me is I like to take my thumb, just cock both at the same time. Even in double barrels, there's faster cocking mechanism. There's some machines that cock as you open it. I kind of like the classic look, and again, if I was going to go for something with super high firepower, I would just pick up my 590. But that's not the reason I got this gun. I got this gun because I just always wanted a 12 gauge double barrel Coach gun. Moving down the machine, it's got a nice set of furniture on it, both on the forearm and on the stock. It looks like a walnut-ish piece of material. I'm not sure what it's made of. It looks like walnut. It certainly is beautiful. Coming all the way to the back and the butt, it's got a hard butt pad here, and since the gun is so heavy, this hard butt pad without any padding whatsoever, this feels like a plastic or perhaps a metal, really isn't too painful to shoot. The gun absorbs a lot of the recoil. In terms of the stamping on the receiver itself, this looks like CFA, Cimarron Firearms, and something else in script manufacturing there. I'll move it around so you can see it. The barrel, on the right barrel, is stamped 12 gauge 3-inch, which means it'll take 3-inch shells or 2 3/4-inch shells. If I flip it around, it says model 1878 LJC PRC. LJC is the manufacturer. PRC is People's Republic of China or California. I'm not sure which is more Marxist. Cimarron repeating firearms, and this just says Fredericksburg, Texas, USA, made by LJC PRC. A little bit repetitive there, but that's what's stamped on the barrel. The gun takes down like any typical double barrel would. On the forearm, there's a little hasp. Release that, take this off, break the gun down, and that's it. Chalk this next point up in the random but interesting category. So we got a 20-inch barrel, and you can see the whole assembly would fit into a space less than 20 inches long. This is a case from a Ruger 1022 takedown, and as you can see, this, when disassembled, would fit in this case really conveniently. So of course I have a Ruger 1022 takedown, and when I'm carrying this shotgun around, I tend to use this case. It's extremely compact and very convenient. Of course, putting this back together, pretty straightforward. Put the barrel on, release this, put the forend on. It's together, that's it. I also have this Diamond D shell cuff that holds 5 shells. This was basically a random buy on Amazon, but I've really grown to like it. Couple things. So the leather and it seems to be really high quality. The craftsmanship seems excellent. It seems like a really nice accent on a machine like this. I could have bought something black and tactical that handles more shells, but this seems to really fit this. And in high capacity is not what I'm going for here. Definitely holds those shells very snugly in there. This leather serves as a really nice cheek rest, and the bottom has this lacing that it looks like 550 paracord, but it's elastic. Holds really, 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 really well. And then there's this undersleeve that wraps around the bottom and is attached to the cuff. It looks good, protects the stock from the string, and really helps hold this cuff in place. So the things I like about this, first of all, I think this is just a darn beautiful machine. Seems like it's well crafted, it's very hefty, feels good in the hands, looks great. But on the more practical side, these triggers are surprisingly light and crisp. These large hammers are enormous, really easy to cock back. Just release those. You can see the gun is still empty. Another kind of cool feature, and I'll do this while the action is open, these hammers won't drop and hit the firing pin unless you have your finger on the trigger. So in other words, if you slip like this, I can't force these hammers to hit that firing pin. Now, if I hold this trigger down, then the firing pin can be struck. So I kind of like this in the fact that I can leave this loaded and I don't have to worry about dropping it. These hammers are not going to hit that firing pin. And you can't always say that with all shotguns, because not all shotguns, in fact, I think most are not drop safe. This one appears to be drop safe, as this hammer will not hit the firing pin unless that trigger is depressed. I really like this is it's just so short and handy. It's just easy to maneuver. It's got nice wide patterning, and we'll look at the targets here in a little bit. And it's heavy enough to absorb the recoil, so not having the butt pad is not a big deal. You can just shoot it as is. And one of the other things too is, it's a double barrel. It's reliable. And yes, this can be used for self-defense and possibly even to some extent hunting. There's some limitations on the hunting piece of it, and I'll talk about that in a second. I mentioned the fact that I like the fact that it's heavy, but I could see that where 8 pounds would be a detractor if you want to drag this through the woods or kind of haul it around. In terms of some improvement areas, you can probably see this on the ranged portion of the video. Sometimes the shells are a little hard to extract, and when you eject, this is an ejector, not an extractor. So this piece of metal here will extract the shells for you, but you have to kind of pull them out, and they can be a little bit tight after firing. The biggest drawback I have seen with this machine is the barrel alignment. So I was shooting at about 25 feet, and the right barrel point of aim is about 3 inches to the left. And similarly, the left barrel point of aim is about 3 inches to the right. So shooting this at any distance beyond, again, 10 to 20 feet becomes an issue of offset of the barrels. This barrel's kind of going this way and this left barrel's going off to the right. So it makes hitting something difficult, but not impossible. I found that if I kind of use in shooting the right barrel, if I use the crown of the muzzle of the left barrel as kind of my aiming point at distance, that's a pretty good approximation of where the shot mass from this barrel will hit. Similarly, if I'm shooting the left barrel and I kind of look at the crown of the right barrel, the shot mass of the left barrel will center at distance, maybe 20 yards, kind of at the crown of the right barrel. So it's kind of a hack to get around this. Is it ideal? Not really, and it is kind of a shortcoming of this shotgun, and that's one of the problems with a less expensive shotgun. This is a $500 machine. When you get a good shotgun, you're going to get good action, you're going to get good, well-aligned barrels. This is a little less expensive. Maybe if someone was using this for plinking around like I am, or just for sport, it's not that big a deal. Also, too, you can use this for self-defense. Again, in self-defense distances of 10 to 15 feet, that offset really isn't a big deal. I'm hoping all this discussion about offset makes sense. I'll get this gun out and try it with sporting clays to see how I do. I think with that little hack of aiming, just kind of offsetting it a little bit, I think I can make this work and hit pigeons with it, so clay pigeons. So we're going to see. So certainly this is a great looking gun. It's a fun range toy, but is it practical? I kind of covered the hunting with it, you have to use that offset. Self-defense at short distance, certainly. But the question becomes, what about the speed of reload? I think if we looked on the video, I was getting about an 8-second cycle time on shoot, reload, shoot. So about every 8 seconds, I can get another 2 rounds through this. Again, if I polish the chambers to get the extraction out a little faster, I could probably cut those times down. But it is what it is. In terms of the reload procedure, I have these dummy shells. These are just snap caps. I'm going to show you what I do to at least as fast as I can reload this machine. Just make sure this is unloaded. Okay, so if I was firing this, let's just say I was at the range, just to go over the procedure I do. These shells would be loaded in here like this, and I would go boom, boom, dropping both hammers. I'd pick the machine up, open the barrel, and I had to kind of claw out the shells because they would get stuck in there. This seems to, even with shooting this more and more, that the shells seem to come out easier and easier. But it still requires manual extraction. So after boom, boom, extract the shells, holding the gun up in my workspace. Then with both fingers, with the thumb, I cock both hammers at once, come back to the shells, grab them in kind of a manner like this. I don't know if you can see that. Come up to the gun at an angle, not straight in. It's real hard to get them straight in. Come in at an angle, drop them in, close, and then boom, boom, and then just repeat the process as long as I have ammo. And again, I'm doing that at about an 8-second cycle time, 7 seconds if I'm lucky. So that 8 seconds is super slow by cowboy action time. I think good cowboy action shooters can probably do that in 2 seconds. They just open this up, kick the shells out because they have polished chambers. They've got rounds in their hip belt they can just slip in, and they're a lot faster than I am. So one question becomes, is this a viable alternative for home defense? I think the answer is yes. Certainly it's not going to be as fast as a pump action shotgun, or certainly not a semi-automatic. I mean, in my 590 I can get 6 shots off in less than 4 seconds. In this, I'm pushing to do 15-16 seconds. That's if nothing goes wrong. But having said that, so you get 2 shots for sure because it's a pretty reliable setup. And I'm going to reference some reading I did with reference to a guy named Colonel Jeff Cooper. He's a legend if you don't know who he is. And Cooper had stated that in his research into shotguns being used in home defense situations, that he had not come across a time where more than 2 shots from a shotgun was required to solve a problem. I think I read Sheriff Jim mention this in a Shooting Times or Shooting Illustrated article within the last 3-4 years, but you can look that up. So, with this, you get 2 reliable shots in very quick succession. Is that enough to solve a problem? Will the first 1 or 2 shots, if you don't hit someone, scare most people away? I think the answer is probably yes. So maybe this isn't the best thing for home defense, but it's certainly better than nothing, and will probably solve most, if not all, of your typical home defense kind of scenarios. So to kind of sum this up, the gun's beautiful. It's a lot of fun at the range. It's probably usable. Maybe not the best choice for play pigeons or home defense or hunting, but it is usable. The biggest drawback is that barrel alignment issue, and you can argue it's a coach gun. Maybe it's supposed to be that, because I think coach guns were probably not used on stagecoaches. I assume back in the day people would want long-barreled shotguns to get a little more distance. This would probably be used behind a bar or something at short distance. So the fact that the barrels point of aim kind of crossed 8 to 15 feet out, is that a big deal? Maybe not. But it is a drawback. But having said that, with that drawback, if I had to do this again, would I buy this machine? And I think the answer is heck yes. I think anyone who's into firearms, and I have AR-15s and a bunch of other different stuff, anyone who's into firearms, having a good double-barrel coach gun, especially in 12 gauge, is just a cool thing to have. It's a lot of fun, it's useful in a pinch, and it'll probably be usable for generations long after I'm gone. I don't know. I just think when I'm holding one of these things, I can think more like a free man. So I hope you learned something from this video. I'm not a cowboy action shooter, so I'm sure there's cowboy action guys that can teach a lot more than I can. Having said that, I hope you did learn something. I hope you found it interesting and useful. But if you have any questions, leave them in the comments section and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Take care.